Hello, everybody. It's my pleasure to welcome today Ms. Sumaira Isaacs, that is the CEO, lady CEO of World Tourism Forum Institute, as well as a special advisor to governments and tourism bodies in Middle East, Africa, and Asia. On the occasion of International Women's Day, we will have a discussion around the empowerment of women and the sustainability and the role of women in these sustainable goals for the near future. Sumaira, welcome. It's my pleasure having you.
Lovely to be with you again, Anastasia. Thank you for this opportunity to talk on this very important subject.
Thank you very much. Just a small historical data. Although now we celebrate it and we are happy about it, there are still steps to be done, and it's a nice opportunity for food for thought and to reflect. Although the first time that it was ever celebrated was in 1911, so more than a century ago in Europe, still we need to mention some important facts that have to do with the sustainability and the sustainability goals. Particularly goal 5, that is the gender equality, goal 8, that is to promote full and to produce employment and decent work for all, goal number 1, that is ending poverty, goal number 3, ensuring health, and goal number 10, reducing inequalities. There I need to mention that globally, still 2.7 billion women are restricted of having the same choice in choosing profession as men do, and also still there are 59 countries that have no laws on sexual harassment. And we know also with the Me Too hashtag that the sexual harassment is something that mostly has an impact on women population. Apart from this, just to mention another important figure that regarding to startup initiatives, less than 0.5% are the startup initiatives taken from women, and still leadership opportunities. Just to mention, at Fortune magazine, only 5% are women CEOs. And this is a great food for thought, as the research has been proven that according to United Nations research, that companies greatly benefit when they give leadership opportunities to women, because it is proven to increase organizational effectiveness and growth. So I would like to hear your thoughts accordingly.
Thank you, Anastasia. You know, I mean, all of these facts that you have mentioned, these are very much there. But one thing that you mentioned that, you know, that this UN women goals and all of that have been in Europe for such a long time, okay? But you will be surprised that in a lot of developing countries, there is a real lack of awareness that such a platform even exists. So I think our work is cut out for us. It's not yet done. And even from the SDGs perspective, from the UN's perspective, much more needs to happen. But they alone cannot do that. So that's why it's really important for us to amplify our voices, our organizations, you know, and some of these organizations that we serve on. So what is the purpose of women's empowerment, you know? Why is it essential? So women empowerment, it helps in boosting the status of women through literacy, in education, training, and awareness creation. So furthermore, women's empowerment also refers to women's ability to make strategic life choices, which had previously denied to them. So it's really, really essential that, you know, a lot of organizations, they focus on child poverty, children's issues, job creations, and so forth. And I believe that if you focus on women alone, that itself, women are mothers, nourishers, homemakers. They basically are the axis of a family nucleus. So if you empower them, you take care of a lot of other fundamental issues.
Because it is proven that women, from the nature, they have this instinct to nurture. So it is proven that it is this distinctive psychology to nurture and to be able to create multitasking activities, but at the same time reducing conflicts and establish this order, let's say. So with a greater emotional intelligence, as you may know from your own position and experience. What would you say to the young women who are in the middle of this transit point? Now, of course, as we mentioned, there are many steps to be done yet, but there are more opportunities given, and special laws, especially in developed countries, and developing countries now with new initiatives will follow in this transit point, where more women will be given these opportunities to have fair access to education and startup opportunities and work opportunities. What would you say to empower them and to be able to think themselves as a valuable person in the near future?
It's not very complicated in the whole scheme of things. It sounds like a very, very, very big topic and an issue. But if I believe that before we tell them what they need to do, I have always propagated that what we can do. Especially the women who are already empowered, right? And what is it that we can do to lift these women who does not yet have the same opportunity as yourself, as you and me. I consider myself really privileged. I'm surrounded by people who support my activities, who understand. I was raised by a very strong mother, who was not educated, had not completed even schooling from Pakistan, but she understood the meaning of raising very strong daughters, okay? And she really turned us into these little ninjas who are, that we have to fight for our rights. We have to have a voice, and we have to be driven. And through that process, also I was surrounded by males in my family who understood the importance of this. My father, who was a product of the subcontinent, the divisions between India and Pakistan and the partition period, he understood the value of raising strong daughters. But then, being surrounded, a mother of 3 sons, and then empowering men in your own family, to then take care of and respect the women they marry. I think that this is also very, very, very important. But going back from the organizational structural point of view, because I think we are very privileged to be serving in these amazing organizations. We have been given an automatic role and power that can be amplified, So what is it that we can do? Amplify the women's voices and ideas in the organization. Do not subdue them. You know, sometimes it takes also a woman to cut another woman, you know. So don't leave your egos at home, and try to raise and listen and hear to these women in your organizations. Don't be afraid to give a woman at the seat at the table in your organization. Don't feel threatened by that. Mentor the girls and women, promote them, be a role model, and help to close the wage gap at least in your organization. This is really, really essential, because that unfair balance still exists. I think the wage gap is absolutely must in the working environment, you know, and give these women in your organization the opportunities, or your periphery organizations, you know, that like you and me, we interact, we give each other opportunities. The fact that you have invited me today, you are giving me an opportunity to amplify my voice and help remove the gender bias in your organization. And you can do that in so many ways. You can be so much of an inclusive leader yourself, to be able to you know, give equal opportunities in every field, irrespective of gender. Moreover, they must also be, like I've already talked about, the equal pay. You know, and then you come on what can happen on governmental level, because our organization, we engage a lot with government, so we can be that magnifier that the governments that we talk to, okay, at least in our case, if they want travel and tourism, why do they want travel and tourism in their country? Can we develop sustainable tourism models? Can we employ more women? Can we add more to their skill sets, you know? But can we also have quietly the conversations about abolishing child marriage, you know? And not be afraid to ask those tough questions, you know, and come up with skills that can help them to fend for themselves in case they face financial crisis. So it's a 360-degree view and approach that we can take.
I'd like to mention that globally, 1/3 of women employment is in agriculture, including forestry and fishing. And therefore, they are more vulnerable to the climate crisis that we will suffer. And therefore, of course, with the governments and all these bodies like United Nations and your initiatives and each company's initiatives, women should be further empowered, as also the cost of this inequality gap and not the fair access to financial and emotional support leads to an annual loss of several trillions of the GDP in many countries, and not only developing countries that suffer the most of this inequality gap, but also in developing countries. And just to mention, as a role model, it's just Sweden that suffers of no inequality gap.
That's staggering, isn't it? That's just staggering, and it you know, it's a paradox, because when you talk about developing countries, it's quite interesting that if you see, you know, that you have more women leaders. Okay, there are more women prime ministers, and presidents. Okay, so either they go straight for the top jobs, and people follow that. Even if you right now you are taking regional elections are happening in India, and you will see that there are so many women MPs and leaders who are running for these positions and all of that.
Like in Africa as well.
Yeah, but you talk about these women in the boardroom, and they are precariously missing, you know. And in fact, I worked on one project, an art project, and it was really the title of that was From Burqa to the Boardroom, you know, that how do you accept how do you relate to the fact that that women can contribute even there if given the opportunity? So I think, like I said, there is not one solution for it. Okay, there is a number of things that need to be done all around, but also it's the women themselves have to empower themselves. You know, they have to create, and you know, it's not that easy.
To envision that they can have that power.
Yes. Yes, and look for inspiration, look for role models.
Yes.
Okay, look for that. Look, you know, and put it in your mind that you have to rise yourself. And everybody's circumstances are different, you know, and difficult. So for me, my circumstances are mine, yours are yours, you know. And as somebody who is really living in the boondocks or something, they have different circumstances. So, not judging by that at all. But I really, really, really believe in the power of reaffirmation in your mind. That how is it that you can change your circumstances? How is it that you can go against the tide? And there is nothing stopping a woman who decides to take that action, that positive action mentally. You can't stop her then. She's unstoppable, you know. So she then becomes like this magnet that attracts all the success towards her. You know, she can turn into a powerhouse, you know, because we are built for organizational skills. We are nurturers. We know how to communicate. We know how to build structures. We build family structures. We navigate through the chaos of raising children, attending to parents. We are caregivers, you know. So why we cannot apply those skills in our professional life? So we very well can do that. It takes a lot of determination and a lot of acting, but once we decide to apply ourselves, we are unstoppable.
Thank you very much, Sumaira. Just to wrap up, I would say that having role models nowadays is more easy than the pioneer ladies back in the ancient times, like Hypatia, like all these who are great masterminds and in philosophy and science. And as a case study, we know that they had to fight much more than women need to do now, because it was not an area, science and philosophy and all of that, they would easily allow women to have power and talk to others. And we know that many women had to disguise like men to be able to do so from the history. So nowadays, to find role models that influence both in politics and the financial sphere and all aspects of that, it's much more easy.
Absolutely.
Much more easy.
I will mention a small story about myself here. You know, I mean, it's not been easy to be where I am, and I'm sure that you have your stories as well, you know. But in my case, being a Muslim woman, okay, and in a very male-dominated environment, and working through that, when I broke into my career path, I actually started after having my kids. You know, because I was a very early marriage, got married at a very, very young age. So I had 3 little boys at a very young age. And then I started embark on my career path, you know, when they were a few years old. But in my initial, most formative working years, I recall I never used to talk about my children at home. I never mentioned to anybody even that I had a family, you know, because I had this thing in my mind that if I will do it, I will be conceived as weak. you know, and you know how difficult that is, how much guilt that you carry with you, you know, because you are trying to be Heckle and Jekyll, you're trying to be two split personalities.
Yes.
You know, you are a mom at home because, and you are at your work, you know, you are this power woman, this iron lady, and trying to make formidable decisions. You are zipping around the world, traveling and all of that. And you've got these 3 little kids at home that you can't even talk about or refer to, if any, and you're missing, you know, their events, and you're invisible. You have to make them invisible, you know, to the rest of the world. And that was then. That was then 30 years ago. But I think women have made a lot of strides in the last 15, 20 years. We are more visible. We are more proud of the fact that we are family oriented, and we can talk about issues and matters and things now that we couldn't 30, 40 years ago. So yes, we have made a lot of strides, and you're absolutely right that today, what you said just now, that it's so much more easier to find those role models, you know, thanks to our connectivity and social media and all of that. So the world is changing, but we need to change more.
And before we finish our discussion, I would like to also thank all the men who throughout the history have given this empowerment to their daughters, who are able to be these role models for the rest of us.
Absolutely. 100%.
And it's very nice to be grateful to such men, because it's not a sex fight here. It's to benefit and to be win-win, and to find a solution for the well-being in balance, as we will experience more challenges in the near future, especially related to climate crisis. Thank you very much, Sumaira, and see you soon.
Thank you for having me. Really appreciate it.
Bye-bye.